If you run a small or medium enterprise or SME, you don't have spare cash, spare time, or spare tolerance for projects that don't pay back. Here's the good news. Energy efficiency can behave like a cash flow machine if it's scoped correctly, financed sensibly, and verified. Today, I'm going to show you how to build a low-risk, high-confidence savings pipeline from energy efficiency using two safeguards. First one is to use an IGA Certified Energy Auditor to design an investment-grade energy audit and deliver one. And secondly is to get an independent review of that energy audit from 80-20 green before you spend $1, so that the numbers stack up to your bank and to your gut feeling. So the SME reality is that cash flow is first and everything else is second. SMEs live or die by cash flow. You need to get fast paybacks and positive monthly cash. So the savings are greater than the finance or the lease costs. You need minimal disruption to trading. You need clear accountability for results. Nothing fuzzy should save about 20%. It's just not good enough. So energy projects, energy efficiency upgrades compete with you buying more inventory, hiring more people, spending more on marketing, doing equipment upgrades. So if an energy efficiency project can't self-fund or come close to that from day one, it's usually not going to happen. That's why the investment or the audit should actually be investment grade with credible baselines, measurement evidence as an additional task undertaken to measure the actual savings, realistic savings ranges, and so you can actually see the savings on your profit and loss actually after you've done the upgrade. So let's look at the cash flow ladder of SMEs. Think of your efficiency plan as a ladder that you're going to climb one rung at a time, locking in cash at each step. So your investment grade energy auditor should structure the energy audit around this exact ladder. So the rung one is your no regrets controls and schedule, kind of scheduling of any stuff that uses energy that will give you good savings with often no CapEx and is really no regrets. So you should fix start and stop times. You should ensure that systems actually do go off on holidays. You should be repairing sensors that aren't working properly and causing equipment to use excess electricity. You can start to rationalize set points. Stop equipment idling through lunch and at night times, just in case. So you might be able to get a 3 to 10% site saving, gives you immediate cash flow and zero or tiny CapEx. And the competent auditor should be able to identify these opportunities maybe just a day or less on your site. Yeah. And then secondly is to tune, repair, and right size. So this is the second rung on the ladder. It's low CapEx. You're going to have to spend a bit here. You might have to be recommissioning the building, balancing air and water flows, removing throttling and bypassing, maybe putting some variable speed drives or drilling impellers in the pumps, fixing leaks, whether they're air or water leaks or conditioned leaks of conditioned air, which has been heated or cold. You should be replacing any failed actuators or valves that force equipment to run harder than necessary. So the typical results, and again, this is a very broad range, and I'm just writing it for indicative only, they're very site specific. Perhaps a 5 to 15% savings on top of the savings you got earlier on rung one. Now we go to rung 3 of the ladder. So this is targeted upgrades where they have moderate CapEx, but pretty good paybacks. So it could be installing LEDs with controls inbuilt, so you're getting savings both from improved lamp efficiency, but from also reducing the operation of those lights through good controls. You've got variable speed drives or variable frequency drives where duty cycles warrant. You've got improved maintenance, maybe heat recovery add-ons. So you should be prioritizing items that close within a 2-year payback on conservative assumptions. And a typical results could be another 5 to 15% at the site level. And again, it's going to really depend on your site and the mix of measures that you come up with. And then rung 4, the last level on the ladder, retrofits, which have larger CapEx but can be staged over time. So that could be replacing the aging rooftop air conditioning units. It could be higher efficiency boilers or chillers. It could be major system designs. It could be major upgrades to the envelope, improving insulation, reducing heat gain into the building. It could be solar photovoltaic and load control changes. But if you stage deployment so that you net cash flow positive throughout, you can bundle with the prior rungs and incentives, you should be able to still achieve that goal of not impacting your cash flow, and often you're able to get vendor financing and move forward and reap the benefits of energy efficiency, but in a cash flow positive way. So a good energy audit should be explicitly thinking about this and sequencing measures so that early savings can help fund later ones. And this is how SMEs can keep risk low and momentum high. So how does an investment grade energy audit de-risk cash flow? A lot of audits will throw lists at you, and an investment grade auditor should be delivering you a finance ready plan. So they should have a good idea of how much energy you use actual cash through a 12-month analysis. And they should have analysed interval data, and they've done on-site logging. They've got a good breakdown of where energy is used on the site through an energy use breakdown. And that can be also adjusted for seasonality, occupancy, and any production rhythm. Evidence before claims. So good investment grade auditors should be encouraging you to trial something, doing short trials and measurements to show the directional savings before you implement CapEx, or only with a small amount of CapEx expenditure. So for example, let's say you've got several package units on the roof of your building, package air conditioning units. You could perhaps do some improvements to one of them, data log that system, and measure the savings through a short trial before you commit to doing upgrades on the others. Range-bound savings. So it's also, you could ask for this, ask for the energy auditor to give you a range of savings, not just a fixed number. And so they're not just cherry picking the best possible case. And so that savings reflect your actual use of the site. Then you could also look for a bundle that kind of clears your hurdle rate and is structured in a way as this cash flow positive. So you're doing those quick wins first, help you building up with cash from the savings that can help reinvest and go in other measures. Plus, if you get some third-party financing, particularly if the savings can be guaranteed, then you're going to be going in and implementing being cash flow positive from day one, and maybe a good auditor could show a monthly cash flow with a net present value included. Now, the bottom line, therefore, is that the investment grade energy auditor certification should be shorthand, and this is my aspiration in delivering this certification, that the audit was done at investment grade and with the numbers that you need to be able to confidently decide whether you're going to invest or not. However, I now want to talk about the 80/20 green review, which is inexpensive insurance. So even good audits benefit from a second set of eyes. And 80/20 Green's energy audit review acts like a pre-purchase inspection before you invest in those capital upgrades. It can sanity check your baselines, make sure there's no double counting, no overly optimistic. It's a very common problem with energy auditors, over-optimistic estimation of savings. It can examine the feasibility. Can it be installed around trading hours? Are there any hidden costs? It can also look at your cash flow and test it against cash flow. What are the finance costs? What are the maintenance impacts? How is pricing volatility reflected? And it can check that it aligns with your requirements around your cash constraints and disruptions being minimised. It also can look at any M&V plan that is recommended, and an M&V plan will help you identify exactly how you're going to measure the savings. And then an M&V report can help identify the savings. You can see if the energy audit has actually achieved if the advice in the energy audit has actually been effective. So ask your auditor to expect a third-party review, and it will help. From day one, they're going to be putting more attention to the audit because they know that a third party will be reviewing it. And they should be doing a better job from the start. So I'm going to give you now the first 12 weeks plan that your IGEA, investment grade energy auditor, could support. So weeks 0 to 2, doing some quick diagnostics, grabbing your last 12 months data, getting interval data, mapping the shape of your load, doing a site walkthrough, focusing on schedules, set points, leaks, overrides. This is going back to rung one of that ladder I mentioned earlier. And implementing those measures, doing a few pilot tests, you can run immediately and with a bit of data logging, you can identify those isolated savings and prove that it's working. Week 3 to 6 then is with meters, data, and loggers to get a longer kind of indication of the savings, doing a bit more cost benefit analysis, and then converting those successful pilots into permanent changes. For example, permanent changes to your set points, permanent changes to your standard operating procedures, permanently added alarms into your systems when something's out of whack and it needs to be addressed urgently to reduce wastage. Weeks 7 to 9 can then be focused on a low CapEx bundle. So this could be prioritising lighting upgrades, controls in zones which have higher hours of usage, maybe targeting VSDs where they have many hours of part load and you could save a lot of things, fixing any leaks in air conditioning systems, balancing hot water, steam controls, fixing leaks in any compressed air system, probably more so than the air conditioning systems. They're harder to trace in air conditioning systems, a lot harder, easier in compressed air systems. And then bundling measures to get guaranteed net positive cash flow, perhaps with external financing and perhaps guaranteed savings by the supplier. So you could use a simple green or red chart to visualize if you're on track as well in building M&V. And then in weeks 10 to 12, you can get independent review by 80/20 Green. If the energy audit report is full, then you've got a bundle of perhaps CapEx measures you want to consider. You can finalise any finance or lease negotiations there. using a range-bound case of potential range of savings and a measurement and verification plan. You can then schedule the works off-peak to avoid revenue loss. So what are some realistic expectations that you as an SME can expect from following this process? What sort of savings can you expect? Now, your site level results really depend on your starting point, and each facility is different. But for many SMEs, control schedules and tune-ups could perhaps give you a 3 to 10% reduction in total electricity with a minimal CapEx. Doing lighting and controls in sites which don't have LED may give you a 3 to 8% savings across the site. Now, these are very rough numbers. They could be higher if your lighting is a higher share of your baseline energy usage. Using variable speed drives, it's really very site specific and depends. Possibly you get system level savings of 10 to 30%, but it's very, very site specific, noting that not every motor will qualify for this. If you're using compressed air and pressure management could give you a 10 to 25% saving with a sustained leak management program to keep those leaks minimized. And possibly some improved maintenance practices and maybe even some small heat recovery, noting that the costs could be a bit longer on that, a bit higher. It could give you probably 5 to 10, 12% on affected system. So a good energy audit will not overstate the savings, possibly present you a range of savings percentages and push you towards implementing pilots using M&V or measurements to establish the savings before rolling out. Okay, so what are some common traps for SMEs when it comes to energy efficiency? How can you avoid them? So some of them are the shiny object buyers, buying new technology before fixing the basic stuff like the schedules and controls. Counter that by doing that rung by rung. Just start with the optimizing what you already have at the start. Overpromise savings from variable speed drives, or overpromise savings from almost any supply of energy efficiency products based on my experience. I used to have a boss who used to tell me when this was when I was doing design engineering, you come up with a cost multiplied by pi and add by 25%. When I look at many savings estimates from energy supplies of energy efficiency equipment, often I mentally in my head will just divide that number by pi, divide it by three and a bit to get what I expect might be the more realistic savings. So you can counter these claims by, again, as I mentioned, doing pilot projects or asking them, hey, do you guarantee the savings? And based on doing thorough measurement and verification. Now, you also need to be aware of invisible costs associated with upgrades. And these costs can be things like dealing with access control, scaffolding, ladders if needed, getting access on heights, safe access, works out of hours, downtime. So it's really good that the works are planned out with a fair bit of detail before committing. Now that may go a little bit beyond the scope of an audit, but it's probably good economy once you're committed, a good practice just to have a detailed project plan which clearly identifies all the costs so that you're less likely to get surprised is pretty important. Then you can get problems also with savings leakage with, say, maybe if there's been some set point changes, the set points are overridden and you're losing the savings. So you can counter this with having maybe alarms or dashboards, having specific owners, giving people KPI responsibility for projects and ensuring that savings stay in place. Maybe having just a monthly meeting to discuss energy efficiency and where you're going and look at how you're tracking. This is where dashboards can be really helpful and try to identify and fix any problems. There will also be a split incentive between a tenant, if you're a tenant or if you're a landlord, because no one invests because the person who invests doesn't capture the savings. So in that case, you could maybe, if you're a tenant, ask for a green lease. If you're a landlord, put in a green lease for your tenants, which incentivizes on a shared cost savings basis, and an IGA auditor could help you draft that. So then how do you finance this bundle of measures? Cash flow is king, as I've mentioned from the start, so structure projects to stay net positive monthly. Use vendor financing or equipment leasing. You can align terms with warranty and expect life. Include maintenance in the monthly costs. Look for guaranteed savings. See if suppliers will actually guarantee the savings. And maybe even an energy auditor may be linked to an energy services company which actually offers that savings guarantee service. You can also potentially look for rebates or utility programs, and they may be quite common depending on where you are, which can be used to help reduce the cost for longer payback items and then get them to within your payback threshold or your required internal rate of return. And then you can do, as I said, do things in stages. Do the easy stuff first, the low CapEx, quick wins, and then as you build up experience and confidence and you're getting savings, use that to help finance more expensive items. So if your lender wants proof, an M&V plan, which is independent of the energy audit, but you commission an M&V plan plus the energy audit and an 80/20 green review of the project is probably a great evidence pack where you can be really sure that you're going to move ahead and get the savings that are expected. So here's a 6-point action list. Firstly, shortlist IGA Certified Energy Auditors and ask them to give you example reports and preferably talk about projects that they've already implemented, what they estimated the savings would be and what the savings actually were, so that you're confident they actually know how to follow through all the way through and deliver real savings. Put forward this idea of this cash flow ladder that I've just presented. Ask for sequence measures and to be net positive from day one. Insist on pilots and good measurement and verification around those pilots. Get evidence before you spend and put in alarms so that if savings are getting lost, you can quickly identify that and fix the issue. Send the bundle of measures or your energy audit review to 80/20 Green for a review before approving CapEx. Get this independent third-party expert review. Use finance smartly to help early savings help cover the cost of those later more expensive items. And then finally, meet monthly for 15 minutes with those in your team, those who've been assigned responsibility or KPIs around energy. Use an energy dashboard and keep your savings alive. Okay, so in closing, SMEs, you don't need more theory, you need cash flow with guardrails. That's what an IGEA grade energy audit delivers and what an 80/20 green review helps protect. Audit smarter, stage it, finance it, prove it with measurement and verification, and then keep the savings. So if you're ready to turn your bills into a cash flow machine, ask your energy auditor if they're IGEA certified and line up an 80/20 green review before you sign. So what's the one energy frustration you want off your plate this quarter? Please just drop a link here in the links below the video and then go and make a 90-hit plan to go and do it. Fix that frustration. Great. Thank you.